The endocrine system.
First, you should understand what an animal hormone is. By the textbook, an animal hormone is an intercellular signaling molecule that is secreted by an endocrine gland or cell and travels in the blood. Basically, it is a molecule which signals other molecules what to do, and it comes from an endocrine gland. There are two types of hormones, one derived from amino acids and one derived from cholesterol. Hormones derived from amino acids are defined as modified amino acids, peptides, or proteins that function as hormones. These molecules are usually polar, so they dissolve in blood very easily. They also cannot diffuse across a lipid bilayer. Amino acid hormones typically bind to a hormone receptors at the plasma membrane of a target cell. A hormone receptor is a protein which takes in the signal which the hormones provide and changes the signal into a form which affects the cell that the hormone receptor is located on. This cell is called the target cell. Hormone receptor binding triggers the second messengers to alert enzyme activities. However, hormones derived from cholesterol or steroid hormones do not attach to the hormone receptors, but they diffuse into the target cell. These hormones have a direct effect on gene transfer. Both types of hormones only remain active for a certain amount of time until they are broken down in the kidney or liver. Each and every hormone has its own function in the body. The endocrine system is comprised of many glands. Vertebrates have major glands along with other glands. Some major glands are the hypothalamus, the pineal gland, the pituitary gland, thyroid gland, the adrenal glands, pancreas, and the gonial glands, which are the ovaries or the testes. Many glands are located in the brain, so the nervous system is considered to be closely aligned with the endocrine system. Two important endocrine glands in the brain are the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland. The hypothalamus is a small part of the forebrain which aligns closely to the pituitary gland. It regulates the internal environment of the body, so parts like temperature, growth, and metabolism. It holds neurosecretory cells, which are neurons that put out a hormone into the blood in response to an action potential. The pituitary gland, which lies next to the hypothalamus, is split into two sections, the posterior and the anterior. The posterior pituitary axons secrete hormones, which are made up by the hypothalamus. The two hormones secreted are ADH, or antidiuretic hormone, and oxytocin. ADH targets kidney cells and reduces urine output, while oxytocin targets muscles in the uterus and causes contractions during childbirth. It also moves milk into the milk ducts during breastfeeding. The anterior pituitary makes hormones and secretes them in response to hormones from the hypothalamus. So when a hormone comes from the anterior pituitary gland, the anterior pituitary gland secretes its own hormone. The anterior pituitary releases many hormones, and its important one is growth hormone, which regulates growth and metabolism. This causes a decrease in fat storage and an increase in making muscle protein. Many disorders can arise from growth hormone. Tumors in the pituitary can cause an overproduction of hormone. A shortage in growth hormone production can cause dwarfism, and an overproduction of growth hormone causes gigantism. Injection of steroids causes excess gain in muscle.
The pineal gland is an endocrine gland in the brain that secretes melatonin under low light or dark conditions. Melatonin regulates sleep-wake cycles and seasonal changes within the body. Melatonin secretion rises and falls in daily and seasonal cycles. Melatonin secretion increases each day after darkness has fallen, which triggers drowsiness and a drop in body temperature. Exposure to bright lights at night can cause insomnia by altering melatonin secretion patterns. Melatonin supplements are sometimes taken as a sleep aid or to help minimize jet lag. Changes in melatonin secretion patterns trigger seasonal adjustments in behavior or appearance. The thyroid gland is an endocrine gland in the base of the neck that secretes thyroid hormone and calcitonin. Thyroid hormone is an iodine-containing hormone that increases metabolic rate and plays a role in development. It increases the metabolic activity of cells throughout the body, and the anterior pituitary gland and hypothalamus regulate thyroid hormone secretion by a negative feedback loop. Decline in the level of thyroid hormone causes the hypothalamus to secrete thyroid-releasing hormone, also known as TRH, which causes the anterior pituitary to secrete thyroid-stimulating hormone, also known as TSH. TSH stimulates the secretion of thyroid hormone, and when the blood level of thyroid hormone rises, the hypothalamus stops secreting TRH, and the decline in this hormone causes a slowdown in the secretion of TSH by the anterior pituitary. In humans, a diet deficient in iodine can cause thyroid hormone deficiency, or hypothyroidism. Ongoing stimulation of the thyroid can cause goiter, which is an enlarged thyroid. Because thyroid hormone increases the body's metabolic rate, a deficiency typically causes fatigue, increased sensitivity to cold temperature, and weight gain, but an excess of thyroid hormone causes nervousness and irritability, chronic fever, and weight loss. If it also causes eyes to bulge. In humans, hypothyroidism during infancy or early childhood can result in cretinism, which is a syndrome of stunted growth and impaired mental capacity. In amphibians, thyroid hormone is essential for metamorphosis. The body also has parathyroid glands, which are four small endocrine glands on the rear of the thyroid that secrete parathyroid hormone, which is a hormone produced by parathyroid glands that regulates the concentration of calcium ions in the blood, and it is also known as PTH. When the blood's calcium ion concentration declines, PTH secretion increases. PTH increases the blood calcium level by causing the release of calcium ions from the bone, increasing calcium ion reabsorption by kidneys, and increasing synthesis of vitamin D. A tumor or other disorder that increases parathyroid secretion can cause osteoporosis, where bones lose calcium and become weak and easily broken. Calcitonin is a thyroid hormone that encourages the bones to take up and incorporate calcium. In many animals, it plays an important role in calcium homeostasis. In humans, however, calcitonin secretion occurs mainly during childhood, and primarily the parathyroid regulates adult blood calcium. Calcitonin supplements are sometimes used as a treatment for osteoporosis. The adrenal glands are endocrine glands located atop the kidney. They have two functional regions, an outer cortex and an inner medulla. The adrenal cortex is the outer portion that secretes aldosterone and cortisol, which are steroid hormones. A negative feedback mechanism controls cortisol secretion. A decrease in cortisol triggers secretion of CRH, corticotropin-releasing hormone, by the hypothalamus. CRH then stimulates the secretion of adrenocorticotropic hormone, also known as ACTH, by the anterior pituitary. ACTH causes release of cortisol from the adrenal cortex, and the resulting rise in the level of cortisol lowers the secretion of CRH, and the resulting decline in ACTH levels slows the secretion of CRH. Cortisol helps maintain the concentration of glucose in blood by inducing liver cells to break down their store of glycogen, and also by suppressing the uptake of glucose by most cells. Cortisol also induces adipose cells to break down fats and skeletal muscles to break down proteins. Molecules produced by the breakdown can serve as fuel for aerobic respiration. The adrenal medulla is the inner portion of the adrenal gland, which secretes epinephrine and norepinephrine. The release has the same effect on a target organ as stimulation by a sympathetic nerve, aka it brings on a fight-flight response. With injury, illness, or anxiety, the nervous system overrides the feedback loop, controlling cortisol, and levels of this hormone rise. This stress response helps the body deal with an immediate threat. A stress response is adaptive for short periods of time, but long-term elevation of cortisol is unhealthy because it interferes with immunity, memory, sexual function, and raises the risk of cardiovascular problems. Similar effects occur with Cushing's syndrome, in which a chronic high level of cortisol results from an adrenal gland tumor, pituitary tumor that causes excess secretion of ACTH, or ongoing use of the drug cortisone. An abnormally low level of cortisol, which occurs with Addison's disease, can cause health problems too. Symptoms include fatigue, depression, weight loss, and darkening of the skin. If the cortisol level falls too low, blood sugar and blood pressure can decline to life-threatening levels. Addison's disease can be treated with synthetic cortisone.
Our first section focuses on sex hormones, which are steroid hormones produced by gonad, which are testes in guys and ovaries in girls. Sex hormones function in reproduction and affect secondary sexual characteristics, which are traits that differ between the sexes but don't play a direct role in reproduction. Males and females produce the same sex hormones but in different proportions. Testes produce mainly testosterone, which is a sex hormone responsible for the development of male sex organs and secondary facial characteristics like facial hair. Testosterone causes testes to form embryos and triggers sperm formation. Ovaries produce mainly estrogens and progesterone. Estrogens are sex hormones that function in reproduction and cause development of female secondary sexual characteristics like boobs. Progesterone is a sex hormone that prepares the female body for pregnancy and helps maintain pregnancy in the uterus. Hormones secreted by the hypothalamus and anterior pituitary gland control sex hormone secretion. Releasing hormones from the hypothalamus causes the anterior pituitary gland to secrete a follicle-stimulating hormone and a luteinizing hormone, which both cause gonads to secrete sex hormones. The pancreas is an organ in the abdominal cavity that secretes digestive enzymes into the small intestine and insulin and glucagon into the blood. First, glucose enters the blood faster than the cells that take it up, so blood glucose increases. Second, the increase stops pancreatic cells from secreting glucagon, which is the pancreatic hormone that raises blood glucose level. The increase also stimulates other pancreatic cells to secrete insulin, which is a pancreatic hormone that lowers blood glucose level. In response to insulin, muscle cells take up and store glucose, and cells in the liver and muscle make more glycogen. The result in this blood level of glucose declining as cells take glucose up and use it for metabolism. The decrease encourages glucagon secretion and slows insulin secretion. In the liver, glucagon causes cells to break down glycogen into glucose that enters the blood. This results in the blood glucose increasing to a normal level. The regulation of blood glucose is disrupted in diabetes mellitus, which is a common metabolic disorder. Diabetics' urine is sweet because liver fat and muscle cells do not take up or store glucose as they should. This creates high blood sugar called hyperglycemia, which disrupts normal metabolism. There are two main types of diabetes. The first develops after the body mounts an autoimmune response against insulin-secreting beta cells, and some white blood cells wrongly identify the beta cells as foreign, so they destroy them. If you have a genetic predisposition for the disorder, symptoms appear in childhood or adolescence, causing a metabolic disorder known as juvenile onset diabetes. All affected areas require insulin injections. In the second type, insulin levels are normal or high, but targeted cells do not respond to the hormone as they should, so the blood sugar levels remain elevated. Symptoms for this type occur in middle age when insulin production declines. Genetics is a factor, but obesity increases risk. To control it, one should diet, exercise, and receive oral medications. If glucose levels are not lowered, pancreatic beta cells receive continual stimulation, but when they falter, insulin production does too, and the diabetic requires insulin injections. The second type is soaring worldwide. 150 million people right now are affected. Contributing factors include Western diets and lifestyles. Prevention of this type is one of the most pressing public health concerns right now. Hormones and receptors of the vertebrate endocrine system are not a derived trait because they also occur in invertebrates. Invertebrates make steroid hormones homologous to vertebrate ones, and signaling methods using steroids and receptors evolved in a common ancestor between us and invertebrates. Invertebrates don't have the same glands, but they produce the same hormones. Hormone signaling systems unique to invertebrates have also evolved. For example, hormones unique to arthropods control molting, which is the shedding of the exoskeleton. Synthetic chemicals enter the body when we ingest them, inhale them, or absorb them across skin through fabrics, soaps, pesticides, and plastic bottles. Synthetic chemicals are harmful. For example, DDT, a pesticide, and PCBs, which are used to make electronic products and solvents, are endocrine disruptors, and they interfere with hormone synthesis, metabolism, and function. Phthalates are potential endocrine disruptors that are in use. They are used to make plastics more flexible and stabilize scents and fragrances. In humans, they produce low testosterone levels, low sperm count, and babies with undescended testicles. Some measures have been taken to reduce the use of chemicals. For example, they are no longer used in pacifiers and teething toys and are also eliminated from cling wrap and American-made products designed to come in contact with food. However, opportunities for phthalate exposure remain. Vinyl is common in furniture, flooring, mattress covers, and shower curtains, and they remain in artificially scented products like air fresheners. The more scented products a mother uses on her infant, the higher the level of phthalates in a baby's urine. Mothers are recommended to use scent-free materials on babies and phthalate-free labeled products during pregnancy.
That's all, folks. The end.